All right, everybody. Whether we all get through this as an island family, meaning we're going to be drenched in sweat or drenched in precipitation, determines on whether we know the weather. And very, very bad
Well,
wordplay aside, and Brandon Idlet is with the National Weather Service, and he knows this stuff, better than anybody. Brandon, hop in and welcome back to the show, man. Always appreciate your insight.
half a day. It's good to be back. And so we like to know weather around here. And so we have seen some weather. We had a bit of a rainy Sunday, especially Sunday evening. We had
We
a lot of
did.
heavy showers move through on Guam. And so it looks to that's going to keep up for the next couple of days.
Okay, so is there anything we need to be worried about though? Because I mean, I'm not gonna act like I'm above everybody else. Anytime I see the wind gets a little bit strong these days, or when I get rain, I get a little bit triggered. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, and so I've been getting a couple messages. My brother Landon, he's been getting some messages. Do we have another typhoon coming? And so the answer is no. We have been seeing some messages come in. There has been some social media posts talking about a tropical storm or Typhoon 2W coming toward the Marianas. And so take cover. That is false. There is no tropical cyclone threatening us at the time. And in fact, the 2W has already passed. That was Typhoon Mawar. That was in the past. So the next storm would actually be 03W. And I think I had to look at my records. I think we already had an 03W farther west into the South China Sea. So we will not have another 2W. If you're seeing a social media post talking about a 2W coming toward the Marianas, that is false. That was Mawar. That is in the past, and it will not happen for 2023 ever again. However, we are watching some other areas, and so the next couple of weeks, we could see the pattern becoming a little bit more favorable for some tropical cyclone development. But right now, all signs point toward the Philippine Sea, kind of near the Palau Yap area, and then to the north as this monsoon trough lifts northward. So let me switch my camera around, and we'll take a look at the weather imagery. But first, the satellite radar imagery. We're kind of quiet across Guam and the rest of the Marianas. Out here to the east of Guam, there are some heavy showers that are slow moving. Those are not going to be really moving anywhere. That's just starting to fall apart. And so, as meteorologists will say, that's stratifying. It's becoming more of just a light to moderate rain. And so, those clouds are going to gradually erode and dissipate. But we are watching some other showers move toward Rota over the next few hours, and then a little bit of stuff near southern Guam, possibly affecting parts in Navy Base, PD, and Agate area within the next hour or two. But otherwise, we've been in this kind of a soupy pattern. And so, looking at the satellite imagery, I've got Guam right here in the center. You can see that green. That is the airport observations flashing up. We've been getting some winds around 20 to 23 knots, so it's a pleasant breeze out there. But down farther to the southwest near Palau, we are watching this disturbance, some nice westerly winds pushing into there. So anybody that knows folks down in Palau, they're seeing some westerly winds. So that is part of the larger monsoon trough that kind of snakes across Philippines and then out into Western Micronesia toward Yap. And
Let
so
me ask
this
you
is a
one thing real
pattern.
quick, Brandon, because
Yeah.
you use what I'm assuming are like industry terms, right, for scientists like yourself, and you said like we're getting soupy patterns. Now, when I think of that, because like I'm just a simple caveman, I'm thinking, are we talking about like soup in the sense of like chicken noodle soup, or it's very very clear, and I would think that like it doesn't really pose any danger to us, or are we thinking something like maybe split pea soup or a jambalaya, where it's a whole bunch of stuff that
Well,
could
that is a
possibly
good
like add some.
question. That is a good question, and I am really hungry right now, and all those soupy patterns sound really good.
Oh yeah.
But let me show you this. So I like to use the term soupy if we're just in a very deep moisture. We've got a lot of moisture. If you're outside, you're going to start sweating in a heartbeat. So I went for a jog in Tucson this morning, and it did not take long to break a sweat, and I was just soaked because it was just so humid. So we're in the soupy, very humid pattern, and so Rhoda is right underneath my finger. And so we're right underneath this gradient of very wet conditions, a lot of humidity. And so that is part of the reason why we have that flash flood watching effect for the Marianas the next couple of days. because we just got all this moisture coming right across Guam and Rota.
I
And
see.
should we get that triggering mechanism for showers and thunderstorms, we're going to see some heavy showers because we just have that moisture available. But closer to Tinian and Saipan, it definitely dries out.
So so maybe
It's much drier up there.
so maybe not something that would be major cause for concern, like say, using the soup analogy, maybe like a New England clam chowder, but we got a tolerable amount of minestrone going on right now.
That's right. So we got the minestrone soup going on. Hopefully, no big chunks.
There you go.
But one thing I want to point out is you see this kind of counterclockwise rotation across the West Micronesia region. So there's Palau, there's Yap, and so we see this counterclockwise rotation. This is part associated with the monsoon trough, and so monsoon troughs across the Western Pacific, across the Guam region, that is one of the birthing places for tropical cyclones or just weak circulations in general. And so this is that area that we're watching for the next several days that we could perhaps see a depression try to form. Now we're talking several days away, maybe late week, but this whole pattern is going to lift northward and westward, stay in the Philippine Sea. So there's no direct threat to the Marianas. So we want to keep that in mind. Two things. This monsoon trough is going to be lifting northwestward. We could see a circulation form and develop later in the week. But for the Marianas, we're just within this very wet pattern that we're going to be seeing showers and thunderstorms at least through midweek. And so that is why we have a flash flood watch for the next several days. Not guaranteed, but we could see a lot of wet, heavy rainfalls from time to time the next few days. And then finally, just some satellite imagery. We do have a lot of cloud cover down to the east and the south of the Marianas. But right now, we're kind of quiet across Guam. But we're going to see some more showers moving in the next couple of days. And so as I break away from the weather information and the pictures, we do have 5 to 7 foot seas over the regional ocean, and we're seeing surf about 6 to 8 feet on the east-facing reefs. Elsewhere, north, west, and south-facing reefs, the surf is relatively small, and the conditions are somewhat calm. But that does remind me, the Fish and Wildlife Aquatics Center. They did mention the expectation for box jellies for the next several days through this week. So if you do have any plans to go swimming, be aware box jellies could be out there in the regional waters. So stay away from those, and even if they are dead, stay away from them because they can still sting you.
Okay, now I know you're typically not more on the biology side. That's on, Department of Agriculture, Fish and Wildlife and everything. But, wrapping up here, do you see from your area of expertise, do the large swells that we might get because of regional activity, do these have a tendency to drive those box jellyfish away, or do they actually sweep them in more towards us and we wind up getting more than we expect?
That is a good question. And so I don't have much information or understanding on that. But I do know they're a little bit different from the Indo-Pacific man o' war that we have on occasion. Those float on the water surface, so they are a little bit prone to motion by the winds. And so I would have to recommend that if you got questions, especially with the box jellies, give the Wildlife and Aquatics Division, give them a call, and they can definitely help you out. But you did mention swell. And so that is one of the other things. If that monsoon over to West Micronesia really intensifies, we don't see a whole lot of sign of it. We could see a little bit of a southwest swell coming into the Marianas later this week. So any boaters, mariners, definitely just keep an eye on the latest forecast and any of the trends that we put into our discussions.
Information is good, and you are talking to one of our community's very best when it comes to giving you exactly what you need. And you'll learn a thing or two, and I certainly have today. So you know what? I think we can both agree it's time for soup.
Absolutely. I will absolutely agree, and I'll see what I've got around here.
There you
Mostly
go.
water.
Whether you microwave it or whether you make it yourself, soup is good no matter what, man. Brandon, we appreciate it, man.
That's right. Thank you, Jason. Take care.